Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Riley Proves That He Is Not a Trained Psychologist, but neither are the writers of this story, and today we're going to discuss the Children of the Wood section of your journey through Metro Exodus. And I just want to say, hey, this is the first video that is being recorded in my new house, in my new recording closet. It's very nice. I'm looking at all the garbage around me now that's all poorly laid out. It's wonderful. I have so few soundproofing tiles in here that it's going to sound like garbage, so enjoy my garbage. So, imagine me, your local over-emotional deer boy, sneaking through the woods. I usually play pacifist when I can, but stealth is surprisingly hard in this game, so I wasn't heartbroken when I had to knife a bloke to keep them quiet. So, there I am, arriving at a small village-like area near the beginning, eavesdropping on dialogue, when I hear two people discussing the best way to patch up a ball to play with. That's a little weird. But it did humanize these particular enemies to me, so I decided from that moment on I'd save scum to get through this area without killing anybody. So I sneak around that building and find a little hollowed-out school bus to the side, and another conversation to eavesdrop on. The subtitles describe the conversants as Pirate and Pioneer. Well, that's a little strange. Usually those two groups would be at odds with each other, not discussing the morality of how to treat bandits, and this figure that seemed to be perceived as godlike called the Teacher. Then it struck me immediately. These aren't rival factions. These are clubs. Like school clubs. And these people, they're children. Big, scary children with crossbows. Their political decisions are handled by a student council. One guy's last words are, "Teacher, I was good. I kept my friends fed. I didn't bully the girls." And the teacher is confirmed to have been an actual school teacher who stayed with the children when all others fled and no parents came to get them, raising them as best he could, until the structure he created couldn't support its own weight, and he killed himself in shame. So this area brings up a lot of moral conundrums. For one, you can't kill children. Is bad thing to do. But are they really children? They're all in their late 20s and early 30s, since they were school children age when the bombs dropped 25 years ago. They're definitely old enough to make their own decisions, and yet they don't act like adults. Sure, they hunt, they fight, they handle politics the best way they know how, they defend themselves, but they still have a very fundamentally childlike mentality, visible in areas like the separation of the pirates and pioneers. They lack a worldly understanding, and I think I have a theory as to why that is. Imagine with me, if you will, that you are the homeroom teacher to about 40 to 50 children, with nothing significant politically or population-wise nearby. Your little podunk school gets by on its own, and you have 4 other teachers for various subjects. Then, one day, in the middle of class, the world ends. The radios die out, the lights flicker, and the sky turns red, then black with ash. Because your school is so far away from anything worth bombing, you're spared the grand majority of the radiation. So by hiding in the basement of the school with as many kids as possible, and all the gas masks you can find, you manage to survive that first year with all your students intact. In that time, no parents show up to pick up their kids. Your fellow teachers try to leave to find some supplies or the students' parents. Some never come back. Others come back so irradiated that they die on the schoolhouse steps. Then it hits you. You're alone. For all it matters, you are the only adult left in the whole wide world. And you have a responsibility to 40 children who all look up at you with fear in their hearts and hunger in their eyes. Not even considering any duties to repopulate the earth or anything, you have a duty to those children, and you'll do everything in your power to raise them as best you can. Years pass. You try to not play favorites, but on some level you have to admit that Olga and the girls are your favorite students. Despite this, you teach them all skills you learned in your youth from your father. Hunting, fishing, trapping, building huts. When the mutants begin to roll in, you and your brightest students develop some crossbows with fully interchangeable parts, and even work up some explosive rounds for the monstrous bears and moles that attack. By now, your students are teenagers and young adults. As people of that age are wont to do, Some of them begin to question your authority. In order to keep some semblance of peace, you attempt to enact some kind of structure in their lives by allowing them a degree of self-governance in the form of a student council, of which you are part but not the sole decision-maker. This goes well. The students thrive under your care. You notice they aren't exactly maturing as they should due to their limited exposure to society and the only structure in their lives being that of a school setting, but they're surviving. They're hunting, they're playing, and they're more or less happy. They're your kids, and you're doing the best you can, but you can't individually parent 40 children. Then the bandits come. Raiders. They kill a few of your children in cold blood and loot their stuff. You're horrified. You're heartbroken. These aren't the only children, now adults, that have died under your care, but these are perhaps the most preventable deaths to have occurred. You and your students immediately begin to fortify your home, creating walkways in the trees and laying out traps meant to hinder but not kill. You try and teach your children that murder is wrong, and even though these hostile outsiders have malicious intent, if it is possible to turn them away without violence, then that's what they should do. Roman, however, the second biggest and rowdiest of your boys, thinks differently. He has a lot of sway among his peers. They convince the boys to lay deadlier traps, make some preparations, and eventually go to all-out war against the bandits, against your wishes. When the boys return, you see Roman so soaked in blood you can't see an inch of skin underneath. Roman had walked to each unconscious or wounded bandit and slit their throats. He'd killed them all. Finally, you realize, these aren't your children anymore. These are, you're not sure. But that blood-soaked monstrosity cannot be the Roman you knew, who would play kickball with the smaller kids and protected the girls from bullying when they were all so little. You can't connect the idea of this blood-soaked man with that protective little boy. Unable to reconcile the two, you leave the camp. Forever. You go find a little church on a hill and stay there, recording your thoughts, trying to piece together where you went wrong. Down in the valley, the boys who refuse to participate in the bloodshed are ostracized and become the pioneers, while the boys who participated in the bloodshed become the pirates. Olga, your favorite student, visits you regularly with food. She and a few of the other girls are the only ones you can bring yourself to talk to. They're still your students, and they still crave your knowledge, but with every piece of advice you give, you feel more and more certain that you no longer have a place leading them. You aren't sure you ever deserved such a place, seeing how things turned out. You look down at yourself and notice how wrinkled your skin is, how gray your hair has become. And the next day, Olga finds you with a bullet in your head and an apology to her and the other students for your failure. This is the story of the nameless teacher who tried to do the best he could in a hopeless situation. It is a tragic one for sure, and I for one cannot blame the teacher for anything he did. It's possible to commit no mistakes and still fail. That is not weakness, it is life. But let's turn our eyes from him and back to the children of the forest. This is the first and only area of the game I got through fully pacifist, never killing a living person. That's my personal choice though. In a reality where save scumming isn't possible, killing a few people to get through this place is a far sight more reasonable. After all, the children assume that you're a bandit and will fire on sight. You have to defend yourself. All you want to do is get back to your train, and it just happens to be on the other side of their camp. Now, I pose a question to you, my dear nerds. Are the children of the woods actually children? Is it right to kill them? Personally, I took the teacher's words to heart because I too have a similar outlook on human life. Is my outlook just an artifact of the privilege that I have to not have my own life on the line in this scenario? I certainly had no qualms about killing the slavers in the desert, though I did go out of my way to spare every single slave I could find and set them free. The moral choice is obvious. Keep as many people alive as possible. But is the moral choice the right choice? And isn't that a fun question to ask? That's all for today, my sweet nerds. Thank you for watching, and please share this video with some of the fans of the Metro series that you know. I'd appreciate it a lot. I love you guys, and I hope you all have a lovely day.